I was just playing Keepy Uppy. Wait, if you're here, that means it's time to start the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Link Show. I'm so excited that you're all here. I wonder what Buckle sent us today. I guess we should go find out. Let's check the mail. I'm gonna go get it and see what we have. Okay, what did we put in the box? Secret. Okay, I'll go get the box then. Okay, Walter, what have you got me? Look at the craft, everyone. It looks so cool. It kind of looks like this is fire and this is wood. It says, I can trust in God. Okay, let's see the mystery item. A cow? Why did Buckle set me a cow as the mystery item? I guess we'll have to go find out in Preach Part 1.
Okay, so when I was growing up, one of my favorite games to play with all of my friends was Simon Says. Now, if you haven't heard of this game, it basically goes like this. One person is it, they stand in front of everybody else, and they say, Simon says, put your hands on your head. And so if that person starts by saying, Simon says, put your hands on your head, then everybody has to put their hands on their head. But if that person doesn't say Simon says, if they just say, put your hands on your shoulders, if you do it, you're out, because you need to be listening for when that person says Simon says. So why don't we play it together? So I'll say Simon says, and then I'll tell you to do something. But if I don't say Simon says, don't do it. So let's do a little practice. Simon says, put your hands on your head. Okay, so because I said Simon says, you put your hands on your head. Simon says, put your hands on your shoulders. And put your hands back on your head. Oh no! If you did that, you're out because I didn't say Simon says. Now, a little later, you might be able to play that with your kids' pastor or your teacher. But I was thinking a little bit about how much I love Simon Says, and there's something that I realized. Whenever the person says Simon says, then we should do it. But if it wasn't Simon Says, we shouldn't do it. And I realized, did you know that sometimes in our lives, when we make choices, it's actually exactly the same? Let me explain. There's two different groups of people in our lives that we should listen to. There's the people that we should listen to, like our mum and dad, or our teachers, or our kids' pastors, and some of our friends that we know are trying to help us. But then there's some people that we shouldn't listen to, and those might be people that are trying to get us to do the wrong thing. But out of all the different people that we should listen to, I think the most important person is God. And so in my life, when I hear God says that I should be kind to others, then I should be kind to others. But if somebody else says, be mean to others, but it wasn't God that said it, then I shouldn't do it. The reason that's so important is because I know that I can always trust that God will help me to live a good life. That when God says, be kind, God says, be generous, God says, help others, that it's a good thing to listen to what God says and do it because it's good for me. Why? Because I trust God. And so a little later on, we're going to take a look at a story in the Bible of somebody who was in a really tough situation and they didn't know what to do. But God spoke to that person and told them what they should do, and they had to make a choice. That person had to choose whether they would trust God and do what God says, or whether they would be too afraid and wouldn't do it. But we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Hi everyone. Okay, this is today's craft. Okay, I'm going to explain it first. For the wood, I've done brown. For the fire, I've done red, yellow, and orange. And for the words, I've done blue and purple. It says, I can trust in God. How I did it was I rolled it up, I taped it, and then it turns into this amazing torch. If you have a parent, guardian, leader, or teacher, you can ask them to take a photo of your craft, and then you can put it in the description below, and we can see all of your amazing arts and crafts. And now we're going to go to the Bible story. I cannot wait to see it. Let's go!
Say hello to Gideon. Gideon would become one of Israel's judges. And during his time, there was a group of people called the Midianites who were trying to take the Israelites' land and were stealing all their food. And the Israelites prayed to God asking for help. And so God decided to save them using Gideon. So God's angel came to Gideon and told him that he had chosen him to lead his people to victory. But he replied, "Lord, I am the least important person in my family, and my family is the least important family in our tribe, and our tribe is the least important tribe in all of Israel. Why would you pick me?" But God had made his choice. A little while later, Gideon and all of his troops gathered near the Midianite camp. But God said to Gideon, "You have too many soldiers. Tell anyone that's afraid that they can go home." So Gideon did this, and 22,000 Israelite soldiers left. Gideon was only left with 10,000 men. But God still said, "There are too many men. If you win the battle, people will think they did it themselves, and they won't realize that I won the victory. Take your men to the river and get them to drink. Anyone that drinks from their hands, put them in one group, and anyone that puts their face into the water to drink, put them in another." So Gideon did this, and only 300 men drank from their hands. God said, "Those are the men we'll use. Send everybody else home." Gideon was left with just 300 soldiers. But that night, God told Gideon to sneak to the Midianite camp to listen to what the soldiers were saying. So Gideon took his servant down to the camp, and there were so many soldiers that Gideon couldn't even count them. They were outnumbered. But he overheard one soldier telling another that he had a dream that God was going to give Gideon the victory. So Gideon went back to camp, got his men together, encouraged them that God would give them the victory, and they surrounded the camp. And at the same time, all lit torches, blew trumpets, and smashed jars. God caused the Midianites to run around confused and afraid, and even got them to start fighting each other. God did a miracle that day and saved the Israelites using one obedient man named Gideon and just 300 soldiers. I love this story so much because Gideon he thinks he's a nobody. He's like, "I'm the least important person in my family, and our family is the least important family in all of Israel. So God, why are you choosing me?" But God chose Gideon because he knew that whenever God said, then Gideon would do it. God says, Gideon did. And so we see at the end of the story, even though obeying God seemed like it wasn't the right thing to do, what? Only 300 soldiers? But by listening to what God said, a miracle happened. And so for our lives, for you and for me, we have to make a choice. Do we trust God? Can I trust that when God tells me to do something, even if I don't understand why, that I should do it? Did you know in the Bible, God says, be kind to everybody, not just the people that are nice to you. God says be kind to people that are mean to you. That doesn't make sense. But I know in my life, whenever I do that and I'm kind to people that are mean to me, then God's helped me to get through that situation. God says be generous. I know for me, when I was growing up, I didn't want to share my toys, but I knew that God said to be generous. And so I shared my toys. And guess what? I made some awesome friends. And even today, I'm still friends with some of those people. And so this is what I want you to remember. It's the most important thing, that we should always trust God when God tells us to do something. So just like when we play Simon Says, whenever God says, we should do it. So if God says to do something, what do? We should do it. Why? Because we should always trust God. And so, Isla, that is why I sent you the little cow, because cows have horns, and Gideon and all his men blew their trumpets or their horns on the seventh day, and then God did a miracle.
That was such a good message. Now I know why Buckle sent me a cow as a mystery item. Now we have a new friend for the playroom. Everyone, meet Macy the cow. You can go right here. But now, it's time for the Bible quiz. Okay, this is how it works. I'm going to ask you a question, and if you think the first end is correct, put your hands on your head. And if you think the second answer is correct, put your hands on your shoulders. Okay, question number 1. What was Gideon's job? Was he a truck driver or was he a judge? You've got 5 seconds. Okay, this one was a little bit tricky. The answer was a judge. If you put your hands on the shoulders, then you're correct. Okay, question number 2. Which people ruled the Israelites? Was it the Midianites or was it the Philistines? You've got 5 seconds. I know these words were a little bit tricky, but if you put your hands on your head, then you're correct. Okay, 3rd question. How many years was Gideon a judge? Was it 2 years or 40 years? You got 5 seconds. Okay, I know this one. 40 years. If you put your hands on your shoulders, then you're correct. If you got 3 out of 3, good job, and give yourself a pat on the back. I had so much fun today. I hope you all did too. But we'll be back next week for a new episode. My name's Isla, and we'll see you next time on The Link Show. Bye.